Saying that Siege is a complicated game does not come out of left field. With the need to learn destruction mechanics, map knowledge, operator abilities, there's a lot that this game throws at you, which means there's a lot of answers on how to get better at Rainbow Six Siege. A lot of which has already been explained through hours upon hours of tutorials on YouTube, but you're not here for those repeated answers. Maybe you've played 500 hours of the game and something just isn't clicking. You know you love the game and you want to get better, but you're just not winning games. Hi, I'm Call Unicorn, and in this video I'll tell you some unorthodox methods that might help with that. But first, let me stress that these are personal, sometimes highly situational tips, and you've got to try to understand when to use them. As I've said, Siege is complicated, these are tools in a tool belt, so you've got to pick the right tool for the situation. Anyway, let's just jump right into it with tip number 1. In a game as complex as Siege, there's a certain methodology it requires you to be in. Meaning it constantly asks you to think what the best possible way to win is. Do you need to open that hatch? To flank? To hold that angle? However, this in a lot of cases leads to major overthinking, when in reality a lot of problems can be solved by just shooting the guy in front of you. Sounds simple, often overlooked. And I'm not joking. As an attacker, that means droning someone out, isolating him, and shooting him in the face. As a defender, that means not always waiting for someone to fall into your trap or going for an epic flank and leaving your one teammate on site alone to be killed easily. You have to at least attempt to contest key positions and areas and not wait for your opponents to make mistakes. Sure, there's a time to be more careful, but from what I've seen, people are not taking the opportunity and risks to be aggressive when that play could lead into winning a doomed round. Another minor point I will add on here is that most guns come with an excess of 200 bullets, which literally translates to 200 opportunities to kill someone with a one-shot mechanic. Use as much as you can. Pre-fire always, wallbang constantly. A lot of people don't like giving away their positions, but in my opinion, 1. Hiding never really works in Siege because of cams and drones, and a good team will always be able to spot you out and kill you. And number 2, you can move. If you can avoid peeking from the same angle and doorway twice, then you can already make yourself a harder target to hit. I live by Danny DeVito's famous words whenever I see an enemy.
Anyway, I started blasting. Bang!
Here's a controversial opinion on muscle memory in regards to aiming. It's overrated. The common piece of advice you get is that you should stick to one sense to develop a good muscle memory so you can play better in game. I'm going to say that the human body and mind is incredible and you can adapt very quickly when you're using a new sense. And you can hone it to a point that is usable in game very quickly. It's like playing with a basketball that's a larger or smaller size than you usually play with. Does that mean you don't know how to dribble or that you don't know how to shoot? Of course not. Granted, there is a bit of a caveat here. I think it takes about 2 weeks to a month to build up muscle memory for a completely new sensitivity. But after that, I think you can perform the same in game as your previous sensitivity. Of course, an actual aiming test might prove otherwise, but in a game you don't need to hit a head that's 3 pixels wide within 150 milliseconds. You only need to hit the easy shots that matter. So change your sense if you want to. It's mostly personal preference anyway. I mean, within the past year, I've changed my sense maybe 10-15 times, I've changed my mouse grip 3 times, and I've changed/modified my mouse at least 5 times. And this is my AimLab score, 4 days on a new sense. I'm still pretty baller at aiming, and that's not something special. I think that's just innately human that you can adapt like that. My third tip is to play a different game, which might sound weird, but just stick with me. This is one of my favorite tricks and something I do when I'm in a slump, but essentially it's this. Every time I'm warming up and maybe I'm just not feeling my aim, or I've just had a bad session and I'm just not feeling confident in my play, I open up another shooter. Recently it's been Quake Champions, but it used to be CSGO. I go into a bot mode. For Quake, that's 15 minutes Unholy Trinity on Burial Chamber. In CSGO, that's just bot mode on Mirage. And I just go ham on these bots. The important part here is that it's a different game and that it's relatively easy. Because when I'm feeling down, there's just 2 things that I want to do. Number 1, I want to feel my sense again. And number 2, I want to feel confident in my play again. And there is no confidence boost like a round against brain dead bots. That sounds kind of weird, but I always feel better and play better after a short game of bots. As well as doing this gives me time to chill and reflect. Maybe a thought popped into my head on how to play better when I'm relaxed, or maybe the game itself made me realize a new perspective on how to play Siege, which sounds crazy, but it's worth checking out other first-person shooters, and you don't even have to spend money for that. Quake Champions is free, CSGO is free, Apex Legends, TF2, and many more shooters are free. So definitely try this trick out next time you're feeling a bit down after a loss, or you just want to change up from the normal grind of Siege. I need just a tiny bit more help here.
Yeah, I'm pushing. I'm coming to meet you now.
One spiral.
Yep.
That spiral dead. Look, attacking is difficult. Way too difficult. It is one of the hardest things to grasp in Rainbow Six Siege, and it's only getting harder with new operators and abilities. And that's why learning how to properly attack gives you a massive advantage over everyone else. From my experience, there's a massive lack of understanding on how to win attacks by a majority of players. Now, if defense is reacting to what the attackers are doing, attacking is just about acting, setting a pace that your defenders can't properly counter, not just about getting a particular wall open or getting the diffuser down. Now, I can't really in-depth explain because I have a couple more points I need to get through, and this video is already about 5 minutes long, so I'll try to be concise with 3 points. Always be with someone when attacking and take the shortest and simplest route to site. If you can figure out what you want to do before the drone phase even starts, then you have a better chance of winning. Yes, sometimes you'll drone out and they'll have a strat that prevents you from what you wanted to do, so you'll need to adapt. But it is good to have a plan and not fumble around on attack because time is not on your side, it is on the defender's side. Try to use every second properly. And I'm going to sound crazy, but this one relates to game sense. There's a certain rhythm when attacking that you really need to hone into. When you see someone and you can in your mind just count the beats like 1, 2, 3, 4 and predict what he's gonna do, then your ability to win attacks vastly improve. Try and listen to that little voice in your mind, your game sense, that gut feeling about something, and you'll improve a lot more.
Plant. Connect now.
Nice.
Nice.
These next 2 tips are actually from my friends because I'm not like the #1 authority on Siege, which might actually be a mini tip here. Learn from your friends. Anyway, number 5. Ravith says give callouts even if the teammates are shit. This one makes sense if you think about it. Maybe your teammate's just playing bad for that one game, and maybe on match point where they really need to clutch it out, your callout might get you a win. Or it might teach a player something that he can use, because Siege is an entirely team-based game. In my opinion, carrying in Siege, like really carrying, is rare. Way rarer than you might expect. Someone might have 10 plus kills and 2 deaths, but that doesn't mean it's a carry, and it definitely won't mean you will win the game. It could be good callouts, good trades. He could even be playing terribly by getting the kills because he's not enabling any of his teammates to win the round. Sure, you might get 3 kills in sight and your teammates have been struggling to open up a wall for half the round, but could your time have been better spent helping your teammate open up that wall than to get those kills? It's a good question to ask. A lot of people know how to play for themselves, but not a lot of people know how to play with each other. And if you can do the latter, then you can definitely win more games in Siege. Brayden says to trust your gut. Sometimes listen, sometimes don't. There's a lot of things that are happening in a round in Siege, and people can be screaming things at you that you don't know, that just entirely confuse you, or maybe that are entirely false. And those things make you actively play worse. Remember, Siege is a team game, very reliant on teamwork, and because of that, one person can actively lose a round for their team. It's okay to mute people when things get too overwhelming, and to play just like how you know you perform best, and not rely on your teammates all the time. Of course, if you can't help it, listening to the calls are helpful. Early round, definitely knowing where people are is a good advantage to know, but maybe it's the last 30 seconds and you know where the last person is. You don't need someone shouting in your ear on what to do in that situation. Just trust your gut and play.
Op 4 eliminated. Mission successful.
And that's all the tips I have for you today. Like if you learned something, comment what your favorite tip is, because there are some here that I just really like and I hope they're very useful to you guys. I'm gonna plug in my Twitch here. You can ask me some questions live. I usually play with a group of very funny guys, the ones you see in these videos all the time. So hop on in and just hang out sometime. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've got more tutorials like this if you want to check those out as well. Oh yeah, and subscribe if you made it all the way to the end. I forgot about that one. That one's important. New technique to just use my middle finger on the link key. I kind of thought it was really simple, to be honest, but I guess a lot of people have trouble with switching up their techniques.